Vamos. Match week 14.
Wow.
We
We made it through a third.
A third of the season. Is that how the math checks out?
Wow. A third of the season around that.
Yeah.
13 games through.
Yeah. And it's been a blast so far. We were in for another treat of a weekend. Another just close battle between you and I. It just seems to get, the margins are tighter and tighter.
They're tight. I'm slowly nicking away.
Slowly.
Last week, I take Brock down 6-5 in a narrow bout. Brings the total scores to 91 to 85. I'm starting to close the gap slowly.
I don't know if we can call it closing the gap yet because it's 1 week. I need to see you string a couple of weeks together before I start saying he's closing the gap. But
all right. Well, let's just get into it.
Let's hop into the first picture.
I'm ready to string together some
Arsenal
results.
back at the Emirates playing Wolves, a side that you've become pretty familiar with. But I want to first, we had an interesting fixture where Arsenal plays Brentford. Obviously, the big storyline is
Ramsdale back in the
lineup. And that sparked a lot of conversations. As an Arsenal fan, I have everybody asking me, Brock, what's your take? Ramsdale back in the starting lineup. What do you think? And for me, it's one of those things, absolutely love Ramsdale. Just such a good vibes, culture guy, like heart on his sleeve. And sometimes you think, I mean, is that a good trait about a goalkeeper? Especially a team that plays the style of football that Arsenal does.
Is that the way to treat a player?
Yeah, I mean, you see it with the likes of Pep, and you see it with the likes of some of these other big managers where it is just cutthroat. And it has to be, right? You have to set that standard, but sometimes you're like, is this even fair? Ramsdale has an unbelievable season last year.
Premier League goalkeeper of the season?
Yeah, and then to be dropped for a goalkeeper that's coming from
a mid-table
side.
Yeah.
But everything that we've seen from Raya, he's what you want in the fact that he's stoic, right? He's just composed. He's had moments where you're like, wow, I mean, what's the upgrade here? But I think as a fan, this is where I'll leave it.
Yeah.
This is where I'll take the conversation. I have to trust that Arteta sees something in training. He knows something about these players. He spends every single day with them. Who am I to sit here and comment? I like them both.
Yeah.
And Ramsdale has a special place in my heart, but that's just where I'll leave it. I back Arteta.
And to speak into that a little bit, I think it is one of those things where Ramsdale, you're sitting there looking at him last season as one of the best goalkeepers in the Premier League, if not the entire in all of Europe.
That's an exaggeration.
But he's in a conversation, top 10, wherever you want to rank him. But he clearly was, according to the Premier League, he was the goalkeeper of the season.
Yeah.
And then you bring in a new guy, right? And the main conversation that we've been having with some of our friends is Ramsdale is chaos. Yeah. I mean, from a shot-stopping standpoint, I would say he's probably a better shot-stopper than Raya. He's got a good frame, good better size, right?
He makes the saves.
But the thing that Raya has that he doesn't, that I think Arteta leans into, like we've been talking about, is this idea that Raya's distribution a little bit better, his composure on the ball a little bit better, and Raya just isn't going to make the mistake that Ramsdale will.
Yeah.
Right? Ramsdale comes out with these crazy saves.
Yeah.
But he has a mistake in him, and we haven't really seen that from Raya.
Yeah.
And so we'll leave that to you guys. Go ahead and drop in the comments how you feel about Ramsdale, Raya, debate, all the stories.
It's a hot take, and I'll just end it with this. And this is where I think a lot of the conversation just ends is this even necessary, right? Like, this is a situation that Arteta's brought upon himself. Was it even necessary?
Yeah.
And I don't think we've even figured that out yet.
And to the point, too, it's like one of those things where now all the media pressure is on Raya. Yeah. Like, it's like one of those things where maybe from a numbers tactical standpoint, you're sitting there being like, oh, I could see this being better for our team. Yeah. But then you get all the other influences on it, and then you're just, I don't know. So time will tell.
Time will tell. This is all to say Arsenal goes back home and they win 3-0.
3-0. Wolves struggling, coming off a loss at the Cottage. No Neto. They have a couple players on suspension that picked up their 5th yellow in the game on Monday night.
No ball.
And so I think that was Gomez. No, I'm just kidding. But anyways, all that being said, I would agree with you. I'm gonna go. We'll go 2-0.
2-0.
2-0.
2-0 who?
2-0 Arsenal.
Okay.
All right, that brings us to the next. Let's go Brentford at home against Luton Town.
Yeah.
Brentford coming off that loss, heartbreaking 89th minute win.
Guy Havertz scores again.
Where Luton's coming off of a win.
Yeah.
And what a win it was.
Yeah.
Against Palace, a very difficult side.
Right.
And to get their first home win of the season is just fun at the game.
Yeah.
It's just fun.
Yeah.
So where do you see this one going?
Yeah, in one of those things where Brentford at home is so tough. I saw this crazy stat. I didn't realize it. Arsenal was the only side last season out of the top 6 to go to Brentford and get a win. They are just a really hard team to play at home. And we always talk about the home field advantage is just so big in the Premier League. We had a big debate on it last week. And so we won't get into it that much, but I think Brentford's going to go home and they're going to get another win. They're going to get another win. They're going to get back into the win column. Not another, but just get back into the win column.
Yeah.
And I have them taking the game down 2-0.
2-0. We'll go. I'm actually going to agree with you.
Yeah.
I
wanted you to do it.
I was going to go for a differentiator, but I'm going to go 2-0 Brentford.
Yeah.
And take us to the next
Cool.
one.
And that takes us to Burnley playing at home against Sheffield United. These are the kind of games that
It's a 6-point game.
It's a
relegation bout, and
Yeah.
it is a must-win for both teams.
Both teams. These ones are really fun to pick because it's like I can't sit here and say that I have a complete understanding of these guys' tactical identity, what they're looking for to try and score goals. So I just have to go off vibes. But I want to give you the opportunity.
Yeah,
Go vibes.
I'll speak into it a little bit. Sheffield got destroyed last week, right? And Burnley had a 1-0 lead going into the crunch time, and they threw it away. This is one of those games where the vibes, we just talked about home field advantage, the vibes is home field advantage.
Yeah.
That's where I'm going to go to. I think Burnley has the quality to take down Sheffield at home 2-1.
2-1. Yeah, it's one of those games where I can't see a whole ton of goals in it. I'm going to stick myself out there, and I'm going to say Burnley wins at 1-0. I don't see a team completely dominating this game.
Yeah.
But
these are those weird games that have, like, you're like, neither of these teams can score.
Yeah.
But when they play each other,
they're just it's chaos.
Yeah,
It
so
completely
it'll be
opens up.
interesting to see which side of the spectrum this one goes
Right.
to. But that will bring us into the next one.
This takes us to Forest playing against Everton. I think this is going to be a fun game to predict because Forest is a side that you and I have both rated quite highly coming into the season, and honestly panned out for the first half of the season. We saw them get some unbelievable results.
Yep.
But then Everton, they get this 10-point deduction, and you're just waiting. Where's that response going to come? You know, there's a fire inside this club, and you're like, it's going to come. It's going to come out at some point.
And last week at Gunderson Park,
Yeah.
they hold up in the 10th minute, they hold up the pink Premier League corruption.
Oh,
Every single fan. And it was crazy to see. It was crazy to see them throw up. They just watched Garnacho hit the craziest goal of the season, and they all of them throw up this Premier League corruption little, I don't know, papers. I don't know what you call them.
Yeah.
And so that was pretty crazy to see from the fans.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see. Obviously, that's in response to City
Right.
and Chelsea's multiple allegations where they just had the one. And so it'll be interesting to see how those pan out. But there's the response from the fans. Let's see it on the field now, right?
Yeah, exactly. And you want to see it on the field, playing away from home. This Everton side, we haven't really seen a whole lot from them, except for the one-off result where they are at home.
Yep.
And they're not. And I think the reality is Forest is going to go win this game 2-1.
2-1. Yeah. I'm going to agree with you on
Okay.
that. Yep. I want, but Forest at home.
Yeah.
Forest at home.
Forest at
And
home.
so let's go ahead and go to our game of the week. Newcastle at home against the high-flying Man United.
Is that what we're calling them now?
Well,
They've gone from relegation battle United to high-flying.
They have the best form in the Premier League.
Best form.
The best form.
On paper.
On paper. I mean, you be the judge on whether or not it's deserved. But, I mean, they get a really good win last week. 3-0 on the road.
Yeah.
We get the goal of the season from Garnacho.
Goal of the century.
Rashford back in the goals,
Yeah.
which is huge for confidence. Obviously, it was a pen, but, I mean, that's his first goal of the season.
Yeah.
And that's crazy when you talk about a player of that quality.
Caliber, right.
Yeah, and so they're in a good form. Newcastle, a crazy, just a statement win last week at home against Chelsea, 4-1. So this one is going to be a doozy.
I think this will be a thriller, and it's funny you mentioned the form of United because in all other metrics, they've been rubbish.
Yeah.
That's been my opinion. I do not think that we have seen a United side, but they're getting players back from injury. You get Shaw back in the lineup.
Yep.
I think he's a game changer.
Having Shaw is a big deal.
Yeah.
Because they've had a left back problem all year.
Right. You get Maguire to start finding form. I think he's looked like a very solid what we remember from the past of Maguire. And so you sit here and you think, okay, well, is the tide changing? And I think the reality is going to St. James Park and playing Newcastle will be an exceptional test for this side.
Huge.
Is this form true? Is this the form? The numbers don't lie. Is this true?
Yep.
And I think they're fake. I think it's false. I think Newcastle will go.
You guys hear this guy?
I think Newcastle's going to go and win this game. That is such a
Wow.
hard place to play. And I have Newcastle. Let me slow down. Is it my turn to predict first?
Dude, I can't even remember.
We're going to go ahead because I already see the number in my head. And I have Newcastle winning this game 2-0.
2-0. I have a question before I say my prediction. Is this because of Newcastle's home form or because of United? You think they're fake? Which one weighs out more? Is it a combination deal?
Oh, you got to factor in both sides of the equation,
Yeah.
right? You
Yeah.
got to factor in the Kentucky wind and the Tennessee altitude. That's
Yeah.
what my grandpa used to say. I don't know what it meant, but that's what I'm applying right
Yeah,
here.
there you go. You love the wisdom, and I would agree because those two factors. If this was like maybe if United were at home, I would be
Right.
saying a different thing. I'd be like United with the home backing, they could get it done.
Yeah.
But Newcastle at home is just special.
Yeah.
They really are. I mean, I don't necessarily love saying that about St. James Park, but it's a very difficult place to play, and it's proven time and time again.
Yeah.
And like you said, this is a tough test for United. They're in good form. They're getting a little bit of belief back with some
Yeah.
players coming back. But Newcastle is a difficult place to play.
Yeah.
And so that's why I'm going to go 2-1 here.
2-1.
2-1.
Cool. That takes us to Bournemouth against Villa. This is one of those games I don't have a whole lot to say.
Yep. Bournemouth coming off of a good win.
Villa,
Exceptional
win.
Huge win against
huge
Tottenham.
win.
Obviously, we'll get to Tottenham in a second. They were struggling. But Villa, time and time again, they just proved their worth.
Yeah.
They proved their worth. They found themselves sitting in a Champions League place with another favorable game.
Yeah.
And so, what do you see happening in this one?
This is the kind of game that I see Villa continuing the train, and I think they're going to go on and win this game 2-0.
2-0, 3-1. Let's go to the next one.
Cool.
Chelsea at home against Brighton. A very, very interesting battle here.
It is.
And so Chelsea coming off that, they were picking up some really, really good results. Get battered on the road at Newcastle. What's the response going to be like against a really, really tough Brighton side who, by the nick of their teeth, survived last week to get their first 3 points in 7 games.
And you saw what it meant to them. I mean, they've just won the Champions League.
I mean, just the final whistle sprints to the away end and is like
waffle. That's
going
a bit of waffle.
crazy because the passion involved there.
Yeah.
Conversation. Dunk picked up a red card last game.
Yeah.
Probably one of the biggest mental lapses I've seen in a long time, where he just picks up 2 yellows for arguing with the ref. That's it. He just argues with the ref once, gets a yellow,
Pretty
keeps
harsh
going,
minute.
second yellow. It's a complete loss of composure. I don't know what he was thinking. Maybe it is tough. I don't know. That's up to you guys.
Yeah.
But they end up surviving.
Yeah.
Which is huge. They end up surviving, get the 3 points, which is just huge. And like you said, you could see what it means. And so, what do we see?
No, I want to
this
hear
one?
what you.
Oh yeah. And I'm happy.
Go ahead.
I'm happy to share.
I want to hear what you
2-1 Chelsea.
2-1 Chelsea. Yeah, Chelsea's such a hard team to predict because they've been so hit or miss. Hit or miss. And it always seems when we talk about Brighton, we usually back them to show up for big games like this. And I think that,
Go for it.
I think seeing the passion that they had just to get the right, that's a locker room that wants it. And that's something that I like to buy into. That's the kind of mentality that I want to buy into. I have Brighton winning this game.
Oh my goodness.
And I have Brighton winning this game 2-1.
Oh my goodness. But the big thing, the issue I have with that, because you're a Muppet, is I just mentioned this reality that Dunk will not be playing in this game.
Vibes.
That is
Vibes.
your leader in the back. That is your captain. That is your anchor, and he's out.
This is I want when we revisit this, I want the lesson to be, you got to want it. Chelsea's a side that we've seen. Their coach comes out and says it last week. That's a side that didn't look like they wanted it. I want guys that want it, and that's what I saw in Brighton, and that's why I make the prediction. That's why we do what we do, because there's little things that you pick up on, that you see, and I might end up being wrong, but that's a culture that I want to buy into.
That brings us to the next game. We got Liverpool at home against Fulham. I'll kick it over to you to say your piece here.
Fulham, pen merchants, they can't score with that.
They put up 3 goals. That's a big deal for Fulham.
Yeah. But the reality is that we see a Liverpool side that, huge game for them last week, and to get the result that they got, playing the way they did, I don't think that they were up for it. They didn't look up for it, but to get a result against a side that's like the juggernaut that is City, Liverpool's going to go thrash Fulham at home. They're going to win this game 3-0.
That was such a big result last week. It really was. I mean, to be able to get a point
on both sides of the coin for both of these teams, big results.
Exactly. But for Liverpool specifically, I mean, that is a huge point for them, for their confidence to do it away from home, and honestly to do it in that fashion. Obviously, I'm up here, shushing our watchers here.
Oh yeah.
But the reality
all
is,
the City fans,
being able. Yeah.
This is for the City fans.
But the reality is to score a goal of that quality and to just the fans and it was just.
That's what we love.
It's why we love the Prem,
isn't
Isn't it? And you're completely onto it. Fulham, huge result, and the reason it was a big result is because they knew they had to play Liverpool the next weekend, right? And so that being said, I'm gonna go 3-1. They'll nick something stupid.
Yeah.
They'll nick something stupid.
I'll get a little pin.
But let's go ahead and throw it to the next game.
We'll go to West Ham Palace. This is one of those games where, it's kind of fun, it's exciting in the fact, it's a toss-up.
Yeah.
It's a toss-up. And so what I found to be an effective strategy in a toss-up like this is West Ham's going to win this game 2-1.
2-1. And the reality is, West Ham, 2 late goals last week.
Yeah.
Just to nick the 3 points. Palace losing at Luton, and Elise scores a brilliant goal. It's so good to have him back.
Yeah.
It really is. But Eze goes down again.
Yeah.
Eze goes down again. That is heartbreaking. You finally get your dynamic duo back, and one of them gets hurt again.
Yeah.
And that is just such a difficult place for Palace. They're a hard team to score against. I'm going to go 1-0 West Ham.
1-0 West Ham. Fair.
And that brings us to what could have been the match of the week.
Could have been.
We went a different direction.
We're tired of City,
but this is a brilliant game to end the weekend. Man City at home against the falling apart Spurs.
And the train is coming off the tracks. And I think that we talked about it while they were in form, is the sign of a team that can go on to win the Premier League title is a team.
We look really smart now. Huh?
Yeah, we look smart. We know ball. But it's because we've lived it for the last, 5 or 6 years. Mm-hmm. The reason that City has just gotten a grip on the Premier League is because they have the depth. They have the depth to do it.
The reality is, again, this is a City team that hasn't had Kevin De Bruyne all year.
Yeah.
If you lose your what most people would say is the best midfielder in the world, you expect there to be drop off, and they continue.
But nobody expected it with City because they're like, it's City. They'll go plug in somebody else.
Exactly, and then that's the sign, right? Yeah. That's what we talk about. That is the sign of what has been the champion over the past couple of years, and Tottenham are hitting that right now. Yeah. Bentancur out, just everything they wouldn't want to happen right now is happening. It feels like. And it's one of those where you're sitting there being like, we've lost 3, we need a favorable bout, and then you go play City on the road.
Harsh.
The hardest fixture in the Prem. And so I don't think they can get a result here. I'm going to go 3-1.
Yeah, and I'm sitting here the whole time you're talking, and I already knew the scoreline I was going to say.
Yeah.
It's 3-1. These are the kind of games Pep doesn't lose.
He doesn't
lose them.
Yeah.
And so, you can count on it.
3-1
City.
There you go.
We'll take the 2 points, each of us. Cheers.
And we're going to go ahead and throw the graphic up there now. Graphics up there. Look at those predictions.
Sign off on the Raya Ramsdale situation. It's one of those ones I'm still continuing to wrestle with.
Yeah.
And only time will tell. I think only time will tell with this situation.
That's the beauty about these conversations is we get to look towards the future of what's going to happen.
Yeah. So go be a genius in the comments.
Yeah.
Say something.
Do you
let it
know
come
ball?
true.
Do you know ball?
So sign off.
And that game of the week prediction, I want in there as well.
Yeah.
Newcastle at home against United.
Yep.
Are United fake? I don't know. We'll find out this weekend,
Heard it
won't
here
we?
first.
And there we go. Game week 14. Bring it on.
Cheers.